Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or whenever it is that you tune in to watch my show here, Naked Tax Talk. I'm Jonathan Bengal, the host of Naked Tax Talk Raw Babies, where we bear down to the naked truth about who we are, about our personal lives, our business lives, and of course, our monetary lives. Because what we know to be true is that when we improve upon the self, the business, which is a reflection of who we are, improves. And the money, which is simply a symbolism of our businesses and of who we are, also improves. And when you work with a certified tax planner like myself, we see the taxes go down. I am super excited to bring on a guest here, Jeremiah Nance. He is a multi podcast juggler of sorts, and I cannot wait to talk more about his podcast and what that really means from a business perspective, maybe even a personal perspective, and of course, maybe some money, because he's an expert at what he does. And I want to pick his brain just a little bit to share that with you. And he does have some tax questions that he'd like to ask us. But before we do that, I would actually like to read to you Chapter A in my book, The ABCs of Deductions, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs. So this is where Jeremiah fits into business deductions if you're a business owner. I wrote in the ABCs of Deductions, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Tax Write-Offs. A is for advertising and marketing. How else do people know you exist? Uncle Sam understands the most fundamental principle of human existence, the need to be seen and to be heard. For your business to survive, you have to tell the world that you exist. You have to put up signs and create Facebook ads or attend networking events, all in an attempt to be seen and heard. The need to be seen and heard is the most basic human desire, and not only affects us personally, but also our businesses. And my dog's barking because Uncle Sam sees your business as your child. He wants you to make sure that you do everything in your power to invest in having your child seen and heard. So without much further ado, I'm going to bring on Jeremiah Nance.
What's up? What's
Jeremiah,
up?
welcome to Naked Tax Talk, baby. How are you
Appreciate you.
today?
Appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate you. I'm doing great. Like I said, just we were just talking a little bit. Got off work, got to zen myself, and got to get ready for this. Get ready for this interview. Appreciate you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. So, Jeremiah, who are you, and what is it that you're about? And let's start with a conversation that way.
Sure. My name is Jeremiah Nance. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually about to be 29. I'll be 29 in June. So I'm a young, yeah, I'm a youngin. I'm pretty young, man. And so just a little bit about me, man. I actually work security. So I've worked all types of different security, entertainment security to mall security, any type of security you can guess it. I've done it. The only thing I haven't really been is a bouncer. But
you're all bounce, dunk.
Yeah, no, I have not been a bouncer. Not about that life. But everything else I've done, and yeah, that's pretty much my background right now.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now you focus on podcasting. So
Yes.
what got you started in podcasting? What is your podcast?
So I actually have multiple podcasts. One is called Top Flight Podcast, where we talk about just news and entertainment, the things that are happening in that week, and we have a discussion about it. Political, entertainment, music, and just everyday stories and stuff like that. So, and we just talk about it. The other one is called Mansplaining Podcast. This one more focuses on man culture, the psyche of men. We talk about male topics, whether it's celebrity, whether it's just topics that happen between men. And we have those discussions as men and things like that. So those are my two podcasts. But overall, it's wrapped under the umbrella of the Black Development Network. So the Black Development Network is the entity. Those two podcasts are part of the entity.
I love it. So we can think of it's called the Black Network.
It's Black Development Network.
Black Development Network.
Mm-hmm.
So we can think of that as kind of like the parent entity.
Yep, exactly.
And then underneath it sits its children which are
Yep.
basically kind of like your grandchildren because you're Papa and you
Yeah, I'm
gave
Papa.
birth. You
Yep.
gave birth to your first podcast,
Pretty
basically.
much, pretty much. And how I started was pretty crazy. I'm also on Twitch as well. I do Twitch streams, and a lot of people have always told me, like, hey bro, you're kind of a natural when it comes to like entertaining and talking. You're not scared to talk, you're not scared to really dive into certain topics and stuff. You don't care about that. So why not try out podcasting? And podcasting is really a growing entity. A lot of people are tuning in audio, visuals to other people's opinion that honestly they might not even have like the credentials to really effectively talk about that. But we love it. We love it. You know what I mean? And so I dove in, and it's been great ever since, man. And I actually took one of my homeboys who worked with me, and I added him to it as well, and said, "Look, let's do this. Let's do something different." You know.
That's really cool. So now, do you monetize utilizing your podcast? Is that a
I
thing?
do. Yep, that is a thing. I do monetize. So I had a podcast earlier. Right now, we're working on a couple of things. Still getting monetized on YouTube and stuff like that. But I was recently on Anchor, and we got monetization from that, and things of that nature. So, yep.
That's pretty cool. So when you think about somebody who's a podcaster,
Hmm.
like, or a company looking to maybe get on a podcast, like,
Sure.
what would be your tip, and just the tip, for when someone might want to consider going onto a podcast or going onto a show?
So there's different routes, right? Like there's different hosting sites and things like that. I always tell people, number one, understand that podcasting is still a growing entity. It's not like television. It's not like radio, where you know what I mean. You have a voice and people can listen to you on the radio and things like that. People have to find you, and they have to find you interesting. To be honest with you,
Ooh.
and so yeah, they basically have to find you. Yeah, and just being honest, and the easy way to start is to start with the people in your circle, friends, family. I started an email list myself, and I started right there, and I started sending it to people, getting feedback. What are things that I could do better and stuff. And yeah, that's basically where I started at. That's where we started at, and we're seeing a lot of growth from that. Um,
Awesome. Let's talk about your mansplaining. That was called,
sure.
right? Your
Yep.
mansplaining podcast. So,
Mansplaining podcast.
like, so what? Because I heard this term being like it could as a negative term, but it
Absolutely.
sounds like you're doing what I love to do, and that is to take something that is normally a negative term
Hmm.
and strip away its power
Yep.
that others have against us
You've hit it right
and
on the head.
use it for us.
Yep, you've hit it right on the head. I think I hear women talking about mansplaining all the time, and I get their voice. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that women are not right in how men can take something that they've perceived, something that's happened in their life, and men have entered a conversation that they probably don't belong in. And or there's a time where we can also sit back and listen and gain some perspective and things like that. Because I'm not a woman, I can't tell you how to be a woman or anything like that. And so
Mhm.
basically that's what I did. I took mansplaining and I stripped away its negativity, and I'm still trying to strip away its negativity and put it in a space where, guys, it's really more about men being able to sit there and have conversations, because especially in 2021, men literally feel like they can't have a conversation
Mm,
without women entering. And women might feel the same way. And that's why that women have now created podcasts themselves. I'm just doing the same thing.
right.
Therapeutic conversations, relatable conversations, funny conversations where men can sit down and they can listen in and have these conversations that make sense. But yeah, that's basically it, man. Just stripping away negativity and bringing something positive to men, and talking about issues that we need to talk about.
It's interesting you're saying that because, like, as a man, as a gay man in particular,
Sure.
um, I know there are some areas where I used to always feel like I was the outside amongst my male counterparts, right? Because I was
Absolutely.
effeminate, I am effeminate, right? And there were certain things that, as male culture, right, would put out and say, well, a man has to be manly, and a man has to do this, and a man has to do
Absolutely.
that, right? And it's almost like we're trying to fight against that,
Yep.
right, in a way, and
Uh-huh.
break down those barriers.
We are, man. We're trying to break down certain barriers. I think and just to be clear on my stance, man. If you feel like being a gay man does not exempt you, even in my eyes, as being a man, you know what I mean. My biggest thing is about responsibility, accountability, and the obligations that you have as a man. And you know what I mean. You have a partner. You built yourself a beautiful entity that
Backyard.
backyard. You built yourself a beautiful house. I mean, it looks amazing out there, right? And
Oh
that's
yes.
that's to me that's masculinity, is taking care of business and things of that nature. I have nothing Has nothing to do with your private
Oh,
life
I
for
love
me.
that. You're
Yeah,
basically saying let's tap into the
yeah,
essence
yeah.
of
What
what it
makes us
is to
men?
be a
Yeah,
man, so
yes,
to speak, and
hmm
tapping into that essence and
absolutely.
really and honing in on that. And so basically what we're saying is the typical male shit that we've been put down our throat,
Yeah,
let's use that for positive
absolutely.
and say that we can tap into that to accomplish the things that we want to do.
Absolutely, and like you said, strip away the you know what I mean. I personally do believe in toxic masculinity. I believe that we have, as a culture, it's like not even just us, right? Like our forefathers before us have implanted this thought in our head that we can't be emotional, we can't be. I actually believe that we have a balance. Everyone, men and women, have a balance of masculinity energy and feminine energy, and
Hmm.
so some access that in different ways and things like that. But you know what I mean, we all have it. And so you know what I mean. I don't think that, just because you're, like I said, just because of your private sexual life that nobody would know anything about has anything to do with whether you're masculine or feminine.
Yeah,
um
that's
and that's just my whole stance on it. So when we do talk about, like, you being gay and stuff like that, to me, I'm not looking at that. Does he take care of business?
that's
There's
it.
men out there that don't take care of business, and they want to prescribe themselves as men. And I'm like,
Right.
no, 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 that's not happening. That's not happening in
Uh-huh.
my book. So,
Here's you got to be, because I was talking the other day to a friend of mine, and I
mhm,
said, I keep forgetting that I got to talk about this word called effort.
sure.
Because everyone wants to talk about this effortless experience, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
money will just come to me just because, or my personal life will get better just because I don't have to do
Oh
anything.
shit, dude. This
But
is this is a
you and I
whole
both know,
conversation.
right,
Yeah.
bro? You and I both know that you have to actually put forth effort. So I don't know if you know this about me, but
Mhm.
I come from extreme poverty. I call it generational poverty.
Okay.
So my mother was born poor, and my mother's mother was
Mm,
born poor, right? So this is generations,
I can relate.
right? So right here, boom. So here's a dude who grew up basically in the ghetto, right?
Mhm.
Like limited funds, moving all the time, couldn't find food half the time, starving, the
Mhm.
typical shit that poor kids go through.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, I showed you a picture of my backyard tonight before the show, right? Like,
Yeah.
I built this because what I know to be true is that I don't know where I'm going with all this, other than to say that it's about tapping into the power of the effort in order to accomplish what we need. And it's not a bad word.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I first of all, I totally get what you mean. I mean, shit, me, like I said, me and other guys have had this conversation of, do you really want better? I believe in better, but do you really know what that means to be better? Make your situation better. If you're cool with making 40,000 a year, I'm not going to argue with you. But for me, I want better. I want a life that's different. That, we talk about income. Today's age, everybody's talking about stocks. They're talking about everything that people have figured out years ago. And
Hmm.
the same thing as me, man. Like we're not. I've never been, in extreme poverty, but we've been in poor situations
Hmm.
where if someone loses a job, it is over. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
If somebody goes down, it is done. It doesn't.
Yes.
You're behind the eight ball. And so,
Yes.
you know what I mean? I'm personally trying to create these streams of income where they come in and things like that. And I, like I said, I totally get it, man. It's
Ooh, let's go down that road. Can we go down that road? You just brought it
let's
up.
go let's go down the road.
So you talked about you creating passive, or sorry, those weren't your words. Those were my tax words. So you
Mhm.
said about creating these different streams of
Streams of
income,
income. Yep, different
and
streams of income.
what happened is in my brain, because I'm such a tax nerd, right? So my
Hmm.
brain went, "Oh, he's talking about passive
Hmm.
income,
Yes.
which has a completely different tax treatment." than active income. Are you aware of the two differences?
I am not. Please make me aware.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so the word is in the word passive, right?
Hmm.
Like literally, that's what it means. Like passif in French. Like you're not taking an active role, meaning you're not breaking a sweat. You're not, your nails aren't being, rubbed to death. Your hands aren't
Yeah.
roughed up, right? You're drinking your martinis at the beach while the money's coming in, right? That's called passive income. Now,
Hmm.
that's different from active income because active income indicates that you're working, you're sacrificing your time
Hmm.
in order to make a buck. So,
Okay.
an easy example would be your W 2 wages. So, when we go and work for somebody and they give us a W 2, that's active income. Our businesses, like you running your podcast, me running my 3 businesses, right? We're actively involved, active income, right?
Mm.
So the reason why this is important is that passive income has different rules as it relates to the losses that gets created in our businesses.
Okay.
All right? So what the law basically says is that passive losses are not allowed to reduce your active income up to certain limitations.
Mm.
All right.
Okay.
Now, active, on the other hand, says, yeah, Jeremiah, you had a loss on your business on a Schedule C on your personal return because you're just starting out your business and you had negative income and you have W 2 income because you're switching, right? You're moving away from a full
Mm.
time employee to a full time employer, right? The
Hmm.
business owner.
Yes.
Uncle Sam says, Jeremiah, I'm going to let you net those two against each other, thereby reducing your taxable income downward.
Okay.
When it's passive income and you lose money on a passive level, Uncle Sam's going to say, Jeremiah, depending on all these different factors, you're not entitled to reduce your income downward.
Oh wow.
So,
That's that's
so
that's so crazy. Like just like learning that. Like I said, that's not something. I'm to be honest. That's not something I learned in school. You get what I'm saying?
hey,
And that hey, I'm just being honest.
no one,
And it's
no
and
one's
it's
taught this.
yeah. No one's talking this. We talk about and this is not shitting on anybody with a 9 to 5. You guys are making money. I'm happy. But you talk about, you know what I mean, people that have 9 to 5s over like the entrepreneur life. You know what I mean? You kind of just settled the difference, at least. You at least settled the difference where, you know what I mean? And then there's people, like you said, that are in business and they're losing money and they could be
Oh,
making that money back or putting that money towards something else. So that's really cool to like learn. And they're not learning this in school or anything like that.
not at all. And so what happens is people often say, okay, well, so here's what happens in
Mhm.
like this is what wealthy people face, all right?
All
So
right.
what happens is my one of my friends, she calls it the rich game. So what happens is they go, I need to not put a lot of sweat and effort and I need something where I can just put money into that's going to have a
Yeah.
loss, sometimes created what I call a fluff expense. My tax experts out there, forgive me, but we call this a fluff expense. So one thing I call fluff is called depreciation, because
Sure.
depreciation is not an actual like legit expense. Like you didn't have to spend the money to get the depreciation benefit. Well, I mean you
Okay.
do by purchasing the asset, but I digress. Like
Yeah.
like for example, gas on a car. You have to go swipe the credit card or the debit
Yeah.
card to
Yeah.
pay cash. Yeah, you get where I'm
Yeah.
going. Okay, so oh shit, I forgot where I was going. Oh well,
you
Jeremiah, it
you're
just means
talking
when we
about you're talking about depreciation. You're talking about depreciation, the car, putting up more money in the gas.
artificial. There you go.
Yeah.
So fluff expenses. So what
Yep.
happens? The individual taxpayer
Hmm.
goes, man, I got all of this income from my W two. My business is doing really well. My partnership, like I got money coming in up the woo and the wang,
Hmm.
and I have a huge tax bill, and I'm afraid that I'm going to pay a lot of taxes because most taxpayers don't even know what their tax liability is going to be at the end of the year, right? Like,
Hmm.
do you know what you're going to pay in taxes in the month of May?
No, no,
Right?
sir, because you haven't
And,
gone through the whole year. So
and you're not alone. You're not alone, right? So a lot of people don't know. All my clients, they do know by now what their tax liability is going to be because we're constantly projecting for them, right? So
okay.
what happens is they go, All right, so they attend seminars and webinars where they say things like this: Jeremiah, go buy a house. Go buy 2 rental properties. Go buy 3 rental properties. Go buy a family commercial building. Go buy stocks. Go buy businesses and just become a shareholder or a partner in a business. But don't do anything. You just give them money and they're going to give you money, right? It's paid back as dividends, which is a fancy word for a cut of the pie, a cut
Oh,
of the
yeah.
profit, right, from the
Mhm.
business. So you get all this stuff passive. Well, the loss gets created through depreciation typically in these types of adventures, right? The building is depreciated, the furniture and the equipment, right? All that gets depreciated typically over a period of years. But
Mhm.
thanks to the Tax Cuts Jobs Creation Act, it actually sorry, I literally have a guest in my backyard. I don't know where this dog came from, but hold on. This is my show live. Oh, it's running away. Here, puppy, puppy. I think it's the neighbor's dog, but you can't really see it. Oh, he's running away.
Oh.
I just had a visitor in my backyard. Anyways, so
Mhm.
sorry about that. It's a live show.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what happens is they go, all right, I'll do all that. I'll invest. I'll go buy and all this stuff. And then I'm going to get all this depreciation. And then it's going to create these big losses on my taxes. And then I'm not going to have any taxes to pay. So then Uncle Sam, he knocks on your door and he's like, Jeremiah, so I saw that you are not actively involved in that business. I see that you're passive. I see you didn't materially participate, meaning you worked at least 750 hours in that adventure. Um, and it has a loss. I'm so sorry, Jeremiah, but you cannot offset these losses against all that income.
Mhm.
And so what happens is a lot of taxpayers now feel trapped because they're like, but I just spent all this money. I took out all these mortgages. I did all of that,
Yep.
right? Because what it boils down to is understanding the difference between active and
Mhm.
passive income.
Wow. That's crazy. That's like I said, man. That's a lot to like digest and stuff, man. That's a lot to digest. That's crazy. That's amazing. That's cool enough.
So for you, I would say that yes, it's a fine. What we want in our lives is a
Yep.
balance between active income
Different. Mm-hmm.
and passive
Passive
income, right?
income. Okay.
Just enough passive, just enough. But we also want that active side of it. And there's ways, by the way, that we
Mm-hmm.
can change and convert the nature from active into passive income. I mean,
Okay.
and vice versa, passive to active as well.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That is crazy. Coming from the man with the life, man.
And yeah, thank you. I
That's
appreciate the
crazy.
compliment. So,
But
Jeremiah, go ahead.
go ahead.
What are you
No,
going to
no,
say?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you. So, we are getting close to the mark where I want to know, but you yourself actually had a couple of questions about business in
Yeah, man.
particular.
So I am a business, and of course, I do want more clarity on like the PPP loans and stuff because
Ooh.
especially here in like Atlanta, a lot of people been getting jammed up. So
Yeah.
a lot of people been
Let's,
getting jammed up. So
well, hey,
you
listen,
know,
if you want to talk about your PPP, we could talk all day long.
yeah.
So, unfortunately, I have some sad news for you. The
Okay.
PPP loans are now they've run out of money as of yesterday.
Wow, I
They've
did
run
not
out.
know that.
Yeah, in
Okay,
fact, even the White House had mentioned it that they did not anticipate, but they have already lent out $20 billion in PPP funding.
man.
Um, and so it's closed, it's terminated, no more.
Mm.
Now, not all is lost because you still have options. So, would you like for me to share with you your options?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay, so the first thing you could do, well, let's understand something really fast. So I teach this in my class, Rapid Take Savings Formula course. It's a 5-week program, and I go into depths about this. But in a surface level, what we have to first understand is that your businesses are not you, and
Mm.
you are not your businesses.
Elaborate for me. What does
Yeah,
that
so
mean?
let's do that. So what we have to believe is that um, our companies are seen by Uncle Sam as their own entity. Like if we think of the word entity, just think
Yep.
of the word entity, right?
Yep.
depending on the context of it, I could say there was this entity that just emanated in my living room, right? What is the entity I'm talking about?
Like a ghost or a
A
spirit or something.
ghost, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Right?
just
So,
mhm.
okay. So if that's also the case, then we can apply the same logic to businesses. So businesses are not ghosts per se, but they are seen as if they are a ghost. So
Okay.
they can still be physically there. Think of a brick and mortar building with a sign on it for your business, right?
Hmm.
But it can also be like that ghost that is like kind of there. We know it's there, but we cannot see it.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. So basically, what you're telling me is, apart from like you, is there, but it's not you specifically. It's just its own little entity away from you.
Exactly.
That
And it so
Uncle Sam's
happens you're
basically.
connected, like you
Yeah,
and
you
that
just
spirit.
yeah, you and that thing can you move your hand, it moves his hand, type of thing, right?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
yes. So
okay,
I like to use the analogy that our businesses are like our children.
okay,
So I like to joke and say that I am a father of three. So I have my 18-year-old. Actually, I think he'll be 19. That's JB Financial. That's
okay.
my tax and prep business, right?
Mm-hmm.
My planning business.
Yep.
Um, I have Naked Tax Talk Raw. This was my unplanned pregnancy that I gave birth to 2 years ago.
Oh
Yep, I
man.
was at a tax conference and I got tired of being asked why I was wearing a bathrobe. And I said, "Oh, because I'm a host of a show called Naked Tax Talk, where we bear down to the naked truth about our money,
Um.
business." So, and then my new business, my toddler, um, it's about half a year old now. His name is Jonathan Bengal, and that is my coaching business. That's my
Okay.
advisory business.
Okay.
So when we first see our businesses as separate of us, but they are us.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach this in my class, and I go in detail about how we began the separation process, because when we do, we can tap into the way that our businesses are seen by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So this is important when it comes to borrowing money for our businesses.
Okay.
So when we are a sole proprietor, which means you have no legal protection of any kind, and I teach this also in my course, but I like to use sex to explain that.
Okay.
Would you like for me to give you a highlight?
Yep. Give me a highlight. I'm pretty interested now.
So sole proprietors are basically practicing unsafe sex.
Mm.
All right? Because they're open to anything, right? You and I both know this. We're both men, right? And for those we have sex with, right? All it takes is one
One
time
time.
to get one nasty STD, and some of them don't disappear, right?
Not at all.
So we know what that's like. So when someone is doing business and they have no legal protection, it's like having unsafe sex. And it turns out that Uncle Sam, he's a prude, and he does not appreciate this at all. And so he charges the taxpayer a premium for having unsafe sex.
Oh wow.
And the amount is 50, I think it's 58.3% tax, or 52 point, no, I think it's 52 or 0.3% tax after everything is all said and done. When the dust settles,
Settles. Mm.
that's your tax is 52.3%, which is a combination of your highest income tax bracket of 37.5% and your mandatory FICA tax, which is Social Security and Medicare, which is 15.3%. So when you add those two taxes, that's how I'm getting up to that 50% tax
Mm.
bracket. Now, with that being said, we got to go, okay, so my business is me, but it's not. Sole proprietor, I'm kind of having unsafe sex. Okay, so I go and I form an LLC. That's going to be the next logical step that most business owners make. They become limited liability companies. That I like to say is like practicing with a dental dam. So although it prevents direct transmission, it still can seep out from the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty protective. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want people to go like, oh, I don't want to be an LLC. It's just know that it leaks. And so because of that, Uncle Sam goes, Jeremiah, I gotta applaud you, man. You're trying to practice safe sex by using a dental dam. I appreciate that. But I'm still a prude, and you're still gonna pay that amount of tax.
Okay.
Damn you. So in that moment, though, when we created that LLC, or even a sole proprietor, right? What
Mhm.
we do, or what we should do, is we should go and apply for an EIN, an employee ID number. It's like going and applying for a social security number for your child,
Okay. And what's
right?
the and just real quick so you can get back to it. Like does that cost and how much does it cost?
So to set somebody up for an EIN, you can pay a professional like ourselves.
Mhm.
Depends on what we're doing. Like we would never just be like, we're going to do an EIN and file it for you and then call it a day and wash our hands, right? Now,
Mhm.
there are services that do that, right? I call those one night stands, right? But I prefer to have a long term ooey gooey relationship, right? Which
Oh man.
means
Mhm.
that I got to get the EIN, I'm going to set you up with protection, and I want to plan with you so that we can really make sure that you're getting the best outcome in your tax life.
Okay.
So, with that being said, most entrepreneurs can go to the IRS, irs.gov, and in the search box, simply type in EIN, and you can actually get one for yourself online. But you got to know what you're doing, right? Because it's going to ask you some technical legal questions.
Mhm.
But what I can share with you is that an EIN is important because it becomes the social security number, so to speak, for your business. So when you get ready to go and apply for a loan, let's say, right? Or you go to open up a separate checking account, which every business owner should do,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
When you go do that, you're going to use this EIN, this identifying number that links it, right? The business to you and to the money, right? And to the business bank account.
Mm.
So that's the first step. The second step that we want to do, and I have a friend of mine that actually specializes in this. I got to get her on my show. Her name is Eileen, and she works with helping to really continuing that separation process so that you end up with something called a done score, which is like a separate credit score from your personal self. But when you're first starting out, you're kind of using your own social security number and you're using your business's EIN number. So it's the same child analogy, right?
Mhm.
Your child can't just go apply for a bank account, right? You're going to put their name on there and you're going to put your name on there, right? It's the same
Mhm.
concept.
Okay.
So that's the first step is we have to create a digital separation, right? Different EIN versus
Mhm.
social. So when you go and apply for a SBA loan, which is what you can do as a small business, it's called a small business administration, and that was who was responsible for the PPP loans. And they actually still provide COVID relief SBA loans called EIDLs, the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Relief, I think it's called.
Mhm.
And that one is not the PPP. This one is going to let you borrow your money and you repay it over 30 years. So think of it like as a big mortgage on your business, right?
Yep.
So it means that if you make that decision, you've got to be like, but I'm doing it to improve my business. So it's kind of like people who take out credits on their homes or home line of credits,
Yep.
and then they go and they pay off credit cards. Right?
Can't do
Bad
that.
use of the money, right?
Yep.
I take the money out of my house, I better be building a new bathroom or remodeling, or I better be doing something to increase its value. When we take out loans for our businesses, that should also be the intention to increase the value of my business.
Okay.
So when you go and apply, whether it's private lending or through an SBA, they're going to ask you for forms. They're going to say, Jeremiah, where's your latest tax return? Jeremiah, where is your profit and loss statement? Where's your balance sheet? Where is your bank statements that's separate of your business, not your personal? I want your business. So those are the steps that we have to take and the things that we have to put in order so that we can qualify for the most amount of money that's possible because we're demonstrating to the bank that we're truly separate. We get this concept, we understand it. And then they're going to look to you and say, Jeremiah, we're going to look at your social security number and we're going to look at your history. And then we're going to give you and provide you a loan based on all of these various factors. But you
Mm.
become like a co-signer for that loan. So does that make sense?
That makes total sense. You actually answered my second question without trying to answer the second question. And that was actually like, I was actually going to ask, basically, I was going to ask, I'm a new starting business. I'm trying to apply for loans. What's the process?
Yes. So that's it. So PPP would have been one.
Mm-hmm.
Although you may not have qualified because you had to have started your business
Mm-hmm.
pre-pandemic. That's the whole purpose, what's called the Paycheck Protection Program. So
Okay.
you would have had to have had income from back then. The other thing, though, is all is not lost. So there's this brand new thing called, well, it's been around for a while, but it's called the Employer Retention Tax Credit. It's called an ERC.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what this is that it's a tax credit that employers, and because you own your own business, you're seen as an employer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Employers can hire basically people, pay them W-2 wages, and claim a tax credit against those payroll taxes that would be imposed on the business owner. Whew, that was a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me re-explain this and see if I can simplify it differently.
Okay.
So, for example, when you have your business, and in my class, Rapid Tax, I go into detail and I really explain this so that we really understand this. But for this purposes here, the best way to say this is for oversimplification. You, by the way, are you an LLC? Are you in a partnership with people? Tell me a little bit about your
So, yep,
structure.
I will be, so I have not set up all those entities just yet. But at the same time, like I have three other people with me, excuse me. It's four in all. So it's me, and three other guys.
Cool. So only in taxes can I have a polyamorous relationship and have multiple partners at the same time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
acceptable.
Okay.
So the moment that you and your buddies decided to do business together, what you did not know or may not know
Mm-hmm.
is that you all got married from a business point of view.
Sure.
You just didn't know it, right?
No, yeah, I didn't know it.
Didn't know it. So
Mm-hmm.
what this means is that all four of you now need to make sure that you're all on the same page when you're applying for these loans. So they're going to ask you, Jeremiah, who are all your business partners? You're going to list them all out, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to say, okay, well, we need a special tax form called a partnership tax return, which
Mm-hmm.
falls under Form 1065. So those are the form numbers. So all of that, you guys decide, but you know what? Like, we don't want to do the work. We want to hire someone to do the work. This is our dream, right? Hires people to do the
Let's do the
job.
word. Yep.
This is what I have. I got people who do the work for me now, right?
Yeah.
So I hire them. You hire them. Well, a lot of entrepreneurs don't know this, but when you hire an employee, you are going to pay a premium for hiring that employee.
Mm.
And we call this the split of FICA tax. So when you go work for somebody and you see that little FICA tax, Medicare and Social Security, and there's a number there, they take it out of your paycheck.
Absolutely.
Well, your boss, our bosses, we, the bosses too, are actually paying the same amount, but on the back end on your behalf.
Mm.
So the most employees don't even realize that, but that number, the employer is also paying to hire you.
Wow.
So oftentimes employers think, oh, I'll just give a $10 hourly wage.
Yep.
But what they don't realize is that there's a lot of employer taxes that goes
Mm-hmm.
into that actually increases the cost closer to like 14 an hour, 15 an hour. So when we think about hiring people, we have to add that premium. So Uncle Sam said, with the employee retention tax credits, Jeremiah, I'll tell you what, those employer portion of payroll taxes, that premium I've been charging you all year long? Well, guess what? I am going to let you not pay me for that portion after all, because I want you to spend that money instead on keeping talent and hiring more people in your business. And I don't want to charge you that premium.
Mm. Okay.
And so we apply for this thing called the Employer Retention Tax Credit. It's very complex because it's going to be based on your tax structure. partnership, S corp, C corp, sole proprietor. Who are the employees? Because you see, when you're an S corp or a C corp, you are an employee of your own business, like legit. And so now these credits I'm talking about all of a sudden seem to sound very juicy because at the end of the day, it's still my pocketbook that's being impacted by these decisions, right?
Yep.
So if I pay myself wages as a C corporation, right, I am entitled to those same tax credits that, say, for example, if I hired someone else to do the job.
Mm.
So I create more money in my pocket by not giving it to the government, and instead I'm incentivized to hire people.
Oh man, that's like I said, that's a game changer right there. Because basically, you're telling me it can all be on me, it can all fall on me instead of the government, and tax cuts and things of that nature where you don't have to pay taxes at all, basically. So
Yeah,
that's
you got
crazy.
it. You got it, man.
Basically, I don't have to pay. I wouldn't have to pay tax. That's crazy.
Yeah, so what we need to know is, did you start your business after February 15th, 2020? So this is a condition to qualify for this tax credit. You also cannot
Which is
exceed
yes.
$100,000 in wages because the
Which is a
credit's
no.
limited. So it didn't exceed that, and less than 500 employees,
Yep,
full-time employees.
I ain't got 500. I don't need no 500 people.
There you go. So those are your basic qualifications. And then we can start looking at your payroll. Now, here's a cool part, Jeremiah. Maybe you didn't know about these tax credits. Well, they're called refundable, meaning that we can go backwards in time, because only in taxes can we be time travelers.
Okay.
We can go back in time and actually get back that money that you paid and get it back as a refund.
Wow.
But you would have had to have had payroll in prior periods.
Oh man, yeah. Okay.
So moving forward, now we got to strategically think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I hiring? Is it me? Is it my children? Is it my wife? Is it my husband? Is it the neighbor? Is it my cousin, my stepbrother? Who am I hiring to do my marketing? Who am I hiring to answer my phones? Right? Oh, my dad needs a part-time job because he's retired and he's got nothing else to do. Dad, what do you think about being my secretary?
And in theory, he doesn't have to do anything. He's
got to follow the rules. There are rules he's got to follow.
Yeah, okay.
Right, he's got to work for you, Jeremiah. Not a free ride over here. He's got to work, right?
He's got to
put
work.
some effort.
Okay.
He's got to follow some rules and some guidelines. But as long as we play inside the rules, Uncle Sam's okay with it. He's not okay with us abusing the rules, and he's not okay with us playing outside of the rules.
Okay.
These rules are a big net. So think of them as not as rigid, but they're flexible up to a point, and then they snap. Make sense? Makes sense. I like to use this word. Hogs get slaughtered. Pigs get fed. So the hog move would be to hire a dad, and he still watches his novellas on TV and does nothing for you, and you're paying him and you're taking the tax credits. Right? That is a hog move, right?
Yeah.
But the pig move is to hire your dad to answer your phones for at least 4 hours a day or 2 hours a day. You pay him fair minimum wage, and you still can qualify for these tax credits. Cool. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
That's my tip, and just the tip. Yep. Always remember that. Hogs get slaughtered, pigs get fed.
Cool. Definitely gonna remember that. definitely
Did I help you answer your question?
That definitely answered my question. Like I said, this is amazing because, like you said, even if people YouTube it, like the way that you're breaking it down is way different because it's like you're breaking it down. Like even I can understand what's going on. You know what I mean? So it's
my
definitely
magic
yeah. So you know what I mean. Not the smartest in the group, but I definitely get it now. So
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, and that's what like the nature of who I am.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because like Naked Tax Talk, like it's funny how as a podcaster you go back and you listen to old shows probably. I'll go back and watch old episodes
I do it
and
sometimes. Yeah.
I see this evolution
Hmm.
and it's like holy moly, it's like I'm finally accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish because I remember a long time ago, one of my business coaches said to me, never ever throw away someone who's coming to you for help. Never do it.
Cool.
Right. And what she meant was if they can't afford, your $100,000 package, right? And this is what
Yeah,
I
of course,
charge for some stuff, of course.
of
Um,
course.
well, how else do we keep them in your circle? Because one day they're gonna be that client.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this book, right? Have my course, da da da. But then I realized, but you know what? People are so afraid of talking about, well, sex is one of them, but they're so afraid of talking about nakedness and taxes. And
Yeah.
so I thought, let's pull this together and
Money
create
in
this
general.
show.
I would even say money in general. You can't, you know what I mean? I think everybody thinks they know everything type of thing, and
Yes.
and don't even know the bottom, still end up in the same troubles and stuff like that. Me, I'm the type of guy, I know I don't know nothing. Even if I know something, I know nothing. That means that I could
Yeah.
go into any conversation and I can learn something from it.
Oh
So
man.
you know what I mean. It's pretty crazy. You know what I mean. Like I said, that's why I took this opportunity because I know for a fact that I'm a business owner. I know nothing. I don't care to let people know that I don't know anything. That's how you learn. That's how you get better. We talked about getting better. That's how you get better. Like you can't. Yeah. So this is
I love it.
amazing.
I think it's
This is something I definitely have to apply, and I got to think about moving forward. I have to. So
most definitely. Well, what I'll tell you and I'll tell my guest out there is that if you would like to learn more about what we just talked about and to go dive in deeper and to really solidify and understand these concepts, they sound basic, but it's the foundation that's creating sucky on my internet. That's going to
oh man,
create the foundation so that we can lift ourselves and our businesses. I really am having an internet issue. What I would like, and you're more than welcome to as well, Jeremiah, my choppiness is I put the link in the chat for access to. I put together a flowchart to explain the employee tax credits and how they work. So you can look to answer the questions, and then it will guide you along the way. And this is for you and for my viewers. But if you would like to know more,
definitely.
our next course starts June 14th. So mark your calendars.
Okay.
Mark
Hmm.
calendars. I'm looking for my charger for my computer. It's about to die, but that's okay. Check out Rapid Tech Savings Formula. It starts June the 14th.
Hmm.
And I would love for you to be a student. And I would also love for my viewers, some of you, to be my students. Because what you're asking about, we cover in my course to the nth degree. And I apologize for the lag. I'm having
It's all
negative
good.
internet. Am I coming out okay?
It's a little laggy, but it's all good. It's all good. I can hear you. I'm listening to you.
Uh
Just a
oh.
little behind.
So I'm gonna
Just a
put the
little
link
behind.
there, and because thank you, brother, thank you. I was like, oh no, okay, well, listen, my laptop's gonna die, and my charger is all the way across the house. I'm taking for 50 minutes. Here's what I want to tell you guys. Listen, you want to be on a podcast because you need to be seen and you need to be heard. Hook up
Mhm.
with Jeremiah. I gave you his links right there. And I'm also going to put out his email address right now too, in the show
Definitely.
notes at least. And I want to
Definitely.
get connected with him. He's looking for guests, right? You're looking for
Yep,
guests to be on your
absolutely.
show, Jeremiah?
Absolutely. We're looking for guests to be on.
And we're
Of
always
course, we'll
looking
have a
for business
conversation.
owners. Why? Because the
Absolutely.
world needs to know that you exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. Jeremiah, I'm going to tap into this slagging of this and conclude today's show.
I
But I want to
understand.
remind us all the reason why that every single one of us went into business was because wanted mucho dinero. I'm Jonathan Bengal
Definitely
here, host of Naked Tax Talk Raw. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for being my guest here on my
appreciate you.
show.
Appreciate your
I
time.
apologize for crazy back weird thing that's happening, but thank you
Yeah.
so much. And we will see you soon in